Micah, would you? Excellent. We were going to give it a minute or two for everybody to get signed in. So let's still take that 1 minute to get everybody signed in and then we'll get started. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started today. We have both ASL and Spanish interpretation for our meeting. Jorge Guzman, please go ahead and explain how folks can use the Spanish channel.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jorge Guzmán. I'm going to be giving some general instructions on how people can access the Spanish information. Voy a ser el intérprete para el día de hoy. Para las personas que deseen esta información en español, en la parte de abajo hay un icono que se llama Interpretation. Si gustan esta información, pueden hacerle clic a este icono y de ahí seleccionar el canal de español. En ese momento nos encontraremos en este canal, en otro canal, para poder dar esa información en español. Thank you very much, Cassie. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Jorge. We also have Melina Lindell and Elizabeth Scheffler, who are our ASL interpreters today. Okay, my name is Cassie Clark, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the engagement coordinator here for Oregon Housing and Community Services. I'll be facilitating our public hearing today. I want to run through a few logistical features before we get started. This is a hybrid meeting, so thank you for those joining us virtually. We also have some in-person guests with us here today at the Oregon Department of Veteran Administration. And then please make sure you have your mics muted for us and that you have changed your name in your Zoom box so that it clearly identifies your name and your organization. Our goal today is to present a summary of the feedback we've received and as well as some information on how we plan to incorporate that into our application. We got some great input that has vastly improved our overall application and our approach to serving the state. Please put any questions that you may have in the chat, or you may raise your hand after Britt's presentation, and we'll get to as many of those questions as possible today. We will also take questions from folks who have joined us in person, and those we are unable to address today will be included in our FAQ, which will be posted in both Spanish and English. Now I will go ahead and turn it over to Britt McLean to get us started today. Start over, I muted you. My apologies, Britt. There.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Britt McLean, she, her, and the project lead for the agency's price grant application. I want to thank the OHCS staff supporting me here today. We've got Micah Talbot from the ARH Affordable Rental Housing Division here at OHCS, and Cassie Clark, who you just heard from, who is our engagement specialist. And I'm very grateful has agreed to come back with us. We're very excited to share what we've received and how we plan to use it. So let's jump right in. Micah, would you mind starting the slideshow, please?
Okay.
Yeah, Micah, if you wouldn't mind just in beginning it, making it the whole screen, that would be great. I think it's that upper, is it the upper right one? The middle. Sorry, Micah. if you go to the very.
Apologies, Brett.
No, you're great. If you go to the upper right, most right, the one next to the X, I believe will make it big. Yeah, let's try that out. Nope. I did. Yeah. Well, that's okay. We're just gonna keep going because who cares? You know it's a slideshow, we know it's a slideshow, so we'll just get started. Okay, so today's agenda, next slide, please. Thank you, Micah. Just hit our agenda for today. We're hoping to cover some of the public comment period highlights. We've got some great feedback, a lot of participation from the public across the state that we're excited to share. I'll go over a summary of the comments we received, some of the major themes that we heard, sort of the buckets of feedback, we heard a lot of the same, a lot of the recurring items for consideration. So we'll present that summary. Then we'll go over the application adjustments. So we'll just go into some detail about some of the most heard, most received comments and how the major changes to the application, as well as some areas where we are not going to be able to change the application. And we'll go into why, but we wanted to give the public an explanation of why we were not going to make some of the changes that were requested. Then we'll go through a Q&A and an open comment period. That'll be your opportunity to give us any last minute comments, concerns, questions. If you submitted a piece of feedback that I don't touch upon during the hearing today, you are welcome to bring that up during the Q&A period. I'm going to try to leave as much time for that as possible. And then we'll go over some next steps when we expect to hear back from HUD, when we plan to submit our application, those kinds of things. Next slide, please, Micah. Okay, so that's great, thank you. So the public comment period highlights. To say we had a wide diversity of perspectives is an enormous understatement. We heard from manufactured homeowners, manufacturers, park residents, legislators, nonprofit organizations, organizations from other states, CDFIs, which are community development financial institutions. Those are typically institutions that lend money for community development purposes. We heard from several of those, and our Housing Stability Council, as well as members from local governments. People are excited about this grant across the state, and they have made their voices heard. We had 34 external participants representing about 13 organizations that were present at the first public hearing, which is a tremendous showing for a hearing of this kind. So thank you so much for those who joined us the first time. And if you're back again today with us, thank you so much for coming back. We received about 7 responses to our online survey. That may sound like not too many, but for a survey for a purpose like this, that is very significant. So we're very excited, as well as other pieces of feedback. We just received a piece of written testimony today, as well as some comments via email, phone messages. So the feedback was pretty extensive. We also promoted the agency's application in legislative hearings, community meetings, partner calls, and the Housing Stability Council. So the word is out. Our application is definitely on folks' minds, and we're really glad to be here today to talk to you about the evolution so far. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please, Micah. Okay, we're just going to dive right into a summary of the comments received. I want to just emphasize that this is not an exhaustive list of the comments, but these are the key comments that we received, that we contemplated and tried to integrate into the application. There were, we'll go into detail on the buckets or sort of the categories of comments we received, but this is just a summary. So again, if you want to talk about a comment that you have already submitted via any of those methods that we that were offered, you are free to bring that up during the Q&A portion of our hearing today. Okay, next slide, please, Micah. All right, so our main themes from the feedback that we received. We received a lot of differing comments, but this was the most helpful way we thought to sort of describe what we heard from folks. Food for thought. This was everything from sharing approaches and standards from other states to very detailed suggestions on specific types of materials and technology that we should be employing while conducting our work. So, you know, these weren't particularly questions, but they were definitely pitches. We even got an advertisement from a company who said, use our type of roofing material. So it really did run the gamut of some really helpful things for us to consider when revising our application. The next category that we heard were lots of suggestions for other uses of funding. Rent assistance was one of them. Dedicate all the funding to one program or the other instead of the even split that we had had in our application. Specific set-asides for certain groups, and an additional request to boost our application amount total. So we're sort of grouping those into funding suggestions, and we'll go through those in more detail in just a bit. The next category were critical flags. We heard, you know, that the OHCS needs to figure out who's going to do the NEPA reviews, which are the National Environmental Protection Act reviews. And then, you know, we need to have maybe perhaps more attention to the issues surrounding wildfire response and resiliency. So these critical flags are issues that our stakeholders and our partners and members of the public wanted to be sure were on our radar, and were wanted to make sure that we included and integrated into the application. The next category, additional data to include in the application, like the number of parks that have file sale notices annually, the specific numbers on our partner capacity for park conversion. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better? Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I'll go back to that category just to make sure that was heard. We received additional data to include in the application, like the number of parks that file sale notices annually, specific numbers on partner capacity for park conversion, the use of more specific examples of successes. Basically, partners have told us we need to do a better job of bragging about the work that we and what the state and the vast landscape of partnerships has already accomplished in Oregon. So we need to brag a little bit more. So we have definitely taken that note and have tried to do that. Our next category, the agency request budget. We have some panicked partners who had a variety of concerns impacting our agency request budget, which is just a fancy word for the amount of money that we request from the legislature every 2 years to conduct the business of the state for the state's housing needs. Folks were really concerned that we were not going to ask for sufficient resources from the state because we were making this huge ask of the federal government. So we will definitely address that, and we will not allow these funds to deter us or discourage us from asking for what we need from the legislature. Because even if we do get these federal funds, we all know that it's not enough. And then finally, typos. We have some eagle-eyed members of the public out there who very graciously and very kindly sent us several small typos, big typos, clarifying language, just really, really helpful grammar suggestions. I'm not going to go into those to save everybody's sanity, but just suffice to say, thank you so much for those of you who conducted such a thorough review of the application. It's really, really appreciated. Okay, Micah, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this again is just an overview of the application adjustments that we have made. And I'm gonna again sort of just take the sort of the most common things we heard, the biggest concerns, the sort of changes that were most significant that we felt the public would be most interested in. Again, save your questions for the Q&A portion, and I will do my best to answer. So let's go to the next slide. I just want to first start with some level setting to remind everybody about what our proposal is advocating for. It's really a dual approach. It's 2 programs, one administered by our home ownership division and one administered by our affordable rental housing division. The home ownership program will repair and rehabilitate specific housing, specific homes owned by homeowners to do life-saving upgrades, ADA physical accessibility upgrades, roof, any sort of repairs that will not only maintain the asset and the value of the home, but make the home livable, healthy, and safe for the owner. And then the second program is our manufactured dwelling park preservation program, which is administered by our Affordable Rental Housing Division, which helps parks to transition to nonprofit or cooperative models, and then also do infrastructure upgrades for the entire park that then the residents can enjoy for years to come. We see an opportunity to pair our homeownership program with our affordable rental housing program at some time in the future, where we will be able to do those life-sustaining, healthy home upgrades to homes within a park that is preserved either through a cooperative or nonprofit model. So we see a lot of really good opportunity to maximize impact. We will leverage our Oregon Affordable Housing Tax Credit, that's OHCS, with these price resources to maximize funding impact. We are one of the only states in the country that offers an affordable housing tax credit through the state, and we will be pairing that with price resources where it makes sense to leverage our state resources with the resources from the federal government. HUD has asked specifically for applicants to demonstrate that they have skin in the game, that they will have their own level of investment, not necessarily a one-to-one match, but some sort of leverage that they're able to commit to make the price resources go further. So that is just a quick reminder of what our approach, of what our application is planning to accomplish. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you, Micah. Okay, so we're going to spend some time on this slide. These are the key application adjustments. I want to start by saying that OHCS didn't really receive any major overhaul suggestions to the approach that we just walked through. Because our approach utilizes systems and partnerships that are successful and well established, most of the feedback was around additional potential uses to consider, logistical issues, additional data, clarifying language edits, and then really good outsider perspective in the technical weeds. So nothing really suggesting that we should change course, start over, go back to the drawing board. So that's why you only see 3 key application adjustments on your screen. We've selected to share the main adjustments as well as the areas that we wanted to explain why we didn't change. And again, if you have a question about a specific comment that was submitted, I would just keep saying it. Please put it into the Q&A and we'll get to it during that part of the hearing. Based on the feedback that we received, these are the key changes that we are going to make to the application. The tribal set aside. We are adding a 10% set aside for Oregon's tribal applicants in both programs. There is a tribal set aside in the price NOFO at the federal level, and it is not allowable for 2 awards to be to service the same area. So we will have to work with our tribal partners to ensure that we remain in compliance. This was a great suggestion, and tribal set-asides are extremely common in many of our homeownership and affordable rental housing programs. So we were very happy to add that. Our next adjustment is ADA and physical accessibility upgrades. This was a great catch. There's just no 2 ways around it. We're working to clarify the language to make sure that these costs are explicitly eligible. This will be true for both programs. So we're talking about things like ramps, bathroom, I think they're called grab bars, in bathtubs, things of that nature. And then finally, partners and members of the public pretty uniformly said, more detail, please. We got some extremely helpful content in that vein on collaborative efforts that have been happening in manufactured housing throughout Oregon for some time. And we hope that the application is now in humble brag territory. We added quotes from manufactured homeowners, park residents, that really added some humanity to what is a very dry document. Data is one very important way to describe the need across the state, and to hear what these resources would mean to individual Oregonians is quite another. So we are adding some infographics, and we invite you to share anything else that you'd like us to consider putting into the application, particularly for the need narrative and the capacity narrative. Those are narrative C and narrative E in the application packet. So those are the major adjustments that we are making. Now let's talk about what we are keeping, what we are retaining. Eligible uses. We were asked to consider rent assistance, and I want to spend a little time on this one because we completely understand this request, and many lots are becoming unaffordable, and ongoing rental assistance is certainly needed. Our read of the price NOFO is that while temporary emergency rental assistance may be an eligible use, recurring rental assistance or subsidy is not allowable. The NOFO states that applicants' activities should work to ensure the long-term affordability, including lot rents and other fees as applicable, of housing without future federal subsidies. We interpret this to mean that the mission of these one-time federal funds is to make the most durable, long-lasting impact possible. So our approach prioritizes activities that keeps residents from being displaced by helping homeowners retain the value of their homes as an asset through repairs and rehabilitation and livability standards. 2, preserve parks that residents have a voice in their rents and other financial matters. And 3, invest in park upgrades that make it possible for all residents to remain in their communities for longer and much more safely. Manufactured home park residents who need rental assistance may access current resources allocated through many of our programs. They are eligible to access those rent assistance resources currently. They can typically get connected to those resources via their community action agency. And if anyone needs help getting connected, please use the housing.info@oregon.gov email address that we provided for public comment, and we will be more than happy to connect you. There are several sources of funding for rental assistance, and we just want to emphasize that manufactured home owners or residents who rent their lot are eligible for those resources. And I also want to mention that manufactured lot rents are subject to the same rent increase caps of 10% or 7% plus CPI as other types of tenancies. The Oregon legislature passed SB 611 in 2023, allowing the maximum allowable increase of 14.6% if the increase was issued before July 6th of 2023. If the increase is issued after July 6th of 2023, again, the maximum allowable increase is 10%. Also, the Manufactured and Marina Resource Center should be able to help resolve these rent increase disputes. So if you are getting a rent increase on your lot that is above that amount, the MMRC, the Manufactured Marina Resource Center, will be able to help you with that. And there is a link to that resource center on our website. Again, if folks need any help accessing any of those resources, please reach out to that email address and we will be more than happy to help. So that is the eligible uses that we are not changing within our application. We are going to continue with those 2 programs with the eligible uses outlined. The second piece that we are retaining is our total ask of 25 million, and we're keeping it for several reasons. The first is that the amount that the legislature approved for us to apply for, so there's not a lot of wiggle room there. And second, a national organization that plans to serve communities across the country has requested the maximum amount of 75 million. So we're feeling pretty confident that with our ask and believe that with all the variables considered, it's still pretty bold to ask for 25 million out of the total pot, considering we will serve only the state of Oregon. It's certainly not enough. We definitely and certainly are ready to admit that. But our hope is that we're seeing some signals from HUD and from the Biden-Harris administration that there is more to come. They recognize the importance of manufactured housing as the largest source of unsubsidized affordable housing in the country, and they need to support it. Oregon has been putting resources into this housing stock for some time, and we are hungry and ready for federal investment. Okay, next slide, please, Micah. Okay, so the next steps. Technically, the public comment period ends today, but that's okay. We are happy to accept any remaining comments that folks have based on these changes that we are walking through today and consider those comments. Please continue to use the housinginfo@oregon.gov email address. We are going to keep making revisions on our application materials. That's in progress, and we plan to submit our application next week to leave time to address any curable deficiencies. Curable deficiencies is just a fancy word for, you forgot this, you didn't do this, you didn't cross a T or dot an I. The curable deficiencies are the mistakes that HUD will allow us to correct. There are incurable deficiencies that we are hoping not to make. We hope that the award announcements will come out sometime in early fall of 2024. HUD has not committed to a date, so we're not sure, but based on the anticipated project start date, that's when we believe we'll hear from HUD about awards. We encourage you to please check the OHCS price application page for any updates. We will try to update that regularly with any news that we receive, as well as our FAQ document. And again, I want to say on behalf of the Homeownership Division, the Affordable Rental Housing Division, the Public Affairs Division, we are so grateful for your time and not only attending today, but for reviewing a really long document and for your very valuable feedback. Our application is unquestionably better because of your feedback, and we hope that you'll continue to track the progress of the application as we go. So with that, I will ask Micah to stop sharing the slideshow, and then we can jump into the Q&A portion of the hearing, which we have about 25 minutes for, and then at about 1:55 we will start to wrap up, and then everybody can go back to their day. So let's see. I am going to manage the Q&A as best as possible. I don't see anything in the meeting chat yet, but if there are any, let's see, if there are any, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And then folks here that are joining here in person, you are also welcome to raise your hand if you'd like to say anything in person. And I'm going to be quiet and let it be a little awkward so folks can jump in with their questions. When will the revised application be posted? Great question, Rob. I think what we will probably do is keep working up until our self-imposed deadline, and then once that's in good shape, we will post a version of the application just in a different format on the website. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. But thanks for that question. It won't be the full application package because, as you know, Rob, every document has to be separate and it's a mess. So the combining of all of the narratives and the exhibits will take a little bit of time, but we will post that shortly before we submit the application.
Okay. Is there a plan to fund new manufactured home parks, especially affordable home parks, run by 501c3 social service charities? Ours is all volunteers.
Sorry, I'm seeing it on the big TV, but not.
Yeah, it's a direct message to me, so I can
Oh.
reread it again.
Would you mind putting it in the full chat so everyone can see it? Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Yes, and if you could submit your questions to everyone, that will ensure that it gets to everyone for an answer.
So is there a plan to fund new manufactured home parks, especially affordable homes parks run by 501c3 social service charities? is the question. So I'm typing it in now.
Oh, it's not letting you.
It didn't let me copy and paste.
Okay, I will take a crack at it, but I'm similar. It's easier for me to see it, but I think I get the gist. Thank you, Cassie. There is no plan to build new manufactured home parks. That is not part of our application. We, however, do have a plan to reserve half of the award for park preservation, meaning those nonprofit entities can buy parks from private owners and own them through our park preservation program. So that would be for current manufactured home parks, not new parks. That is not to say we don't acknowledge the need for new manufactured home parks, but it is not part of this application.
Jorge, are there any questions in your chat or in your room that you want to convey? No? Okay.
Okay, we'll just keep, I know sometimes it takes folks a minute to get ready to speak publicly. So we'll just be quiet for a few more seconds and let folks get their thoughts together. Okay, while we wait just a couple more minutes, I'm going to put the email address in the chat for any additional comments that folks would like to submit.
Or whatever here. Would you mind also adding the link to sign up for our
Absolutely.
newsletters?
Yes, we strongly encourage you to sign up for our e-news alerts. We have lots of exciting news to share all the time, and it's the best way to stay connected. So I'm going to drop that link to subscribe here in just 1 second. There.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that didn't. That wasn't the link. That was just the text of the link. Give me 1 second. Oh, brother. There we go. Maybe while I'm at it, I will add the OHCS price application webpage as well. Just so we have that handy. Our comms team worked really hard on that, so I'm including Micah, who's here. He did a lot of work on that webpage, so we're very proud of it and hope that it is helpful for folks. And that we just want to emphasize, if you have trouble navigating to that webpage, there is a link on our OHCS homepage. If you scroll down to the program areas, you will see a link to the webpage there. So no need to do a bunch of searching, just go straight to our homepage and you'll be able to find that link. We wanted to make it as easy as possible.
That bought us a little bit more time for anyone to ask any questions. This isn't your last opportunity, though. As Britt included in the chat is the housinginfo@oregon.gov email address. So if anything comes to you later that you want us to know about, please do feel free to send us an email. Then as Britt said earlier, we expect to hear back from HUD in the fall about our application, but they haven't given a definitive date yet. So that website that's listed there is a great place to keep up to date on the latest information. And otherwise, we just thank you for joining us today and being a part of this application. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I mean, I think we can conclude if there's nothing further.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
And thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Melina.